Yeah, and our presidents, and our athletic directors are very interested in not just watching what's happening in Division II and trying to react to that, but to also maybe be a little proactive to do some things for our conference and others that want to be a part of change that helps position schools and conferences at our level to be a positive alternative to some of the things that we're seeing in Division I.
Back with the MIAA A-Game show, Chris Roush with Commissioner Mike Racy. Sir, it's been a minute, but it's been a fast minute because the fall sports season is flying by right around the corner. We'll have postseason for many of the sports, but it's good to have you back on and good to talk a little bit about the future of the MIAA and Division II at the same time.
Yeah, good to see you, Chris. We're right on the back end of MIAA Basketball Media Day as well in Kansas City. That happened last week at the College Basketball Hall of Fame, and we had all 28 of our men's and women's coaches that gathered, and that event helps tip off NCAA Division II men's and women's basketball. So, yeah, not only busy wrapping up or at least heading down the home stretch of our fall sports. Our cross country championship, I think, is just 2 weeks away. So, we're starting to see the finish line for some of these fall championships, and our winter sports are busy in practice, and they'll start their seasons here in a couple of weeks. So a lot going on right now in the MIAA.
Today's topics, it's a big one that we're going to get into here. The NCAA Division II think tank had a list of priorities and potential solutions, and there were some things we'll get to here in a moment that didn't make top priority for the Division II think tank. But I think the biggest one from the list that I have here is the finances dedicated to championships. We've talked about that before, about looking at maybe the model of how it's done in Division II when it comes to championships, where the budget is there. What came from that as maybe the number one priority there being ranked so high?
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks, Chris, for introducing this topic, and I think it is an important one. The think tank, was really intended by the NCAA Division II governance staff and the Division II executive board to bring together thought leaders from Division II, representatives from every Division II conference. They gathered in Indianapolis. It was really a national convening. Do you like that word, Chris? Convening?
National convening, yeah. We're
Yeah,
just using for anything. It might have like convening day.
Yeah, I that's one of the higher education words that I've stumbled across that I really like. It seems to be a tag you can put on something that makes it an even more important meeting. But they gathered in Indianapolis in mid-September, and I think the think tank met a couple of days. And I do think, Chris, it's very positive that there's recognition in among all conferences in Division II that we need to relook and reconsider where we're spending our money, where our resources are going. Nothing more important that the NCAA does. I'd say it's the fundamental purpose of the NCAA, and that's to organize and put on national championship events, and to have those be events that help determine a national champ, that the bracket makes sense to not only the members but the student athletes that are part of it, that we're rewarding excellence, as Tim Pernetti of the AAC and Division I, commissioner of the AAC, recently said, we're not handing out participation trophies, and that's what these postseason events are for, is to recognize the best of the best and reward those programs that have through the season shown that they're one of the top programs in the country, and our at least our think tank leaders believe that maybe more of our resources need to be put into championships, where we can begin to do some things a little different in how we select teams or how we bracket teams. And the good news is the think tank has really handed off a lot of these topics, Chris, to different governance groups within the structure. And this issue about finances obviously goes to the Division II Planning and Finance Committee. And we have one of our athletic directors, Curtis Jans from Arkansas Fort Smith, that sits on that Planning and Finance Committee. So I feel we have good representation around the table, and there are some of these programs and things we're spending money on that have been part of the budget for 20 years, and maybe they need to be included another 20 years, but they need to at least be evaluated. What type of impact as some of these expenses had, and have they fulfilled the objective? Is it time to put those resources towards a more important measure like championships? And all of that is positive coming out of these think tank conversations.
When you talk finances, people may not think that it has so much to do with the games themselves, but when you look at the finances of championships, this could potentially open up how you look at the tournaments, how they are seeded, or how many teams, and the bracket increases. There's a lot that can play out from just looking at this side of the picture, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's a big benefit of NCAA membership, is the expenses that are some of them are covered related to a team's expense for going to a championship event. It's expensive to send a team on the road, especially some of the places that regional or championship events take place. And you've got bus fare, you've got hotels, you've got meals, you've got, in some cases, charter flights, and the NCAA is helping to cover the costs of all of that. And so it's championships are an expensive endeavor in NCAA, in the NCAA budget for all three divisions. And the more money that we're putting into championships absolutely means things like you're mentioning, Chris, bracket expansion, maybe a different way of bracketing, maybe a way of bracketing where you're not necessarily having to meet your conference opponents in the first round of the NCAA tournament. To do something different will require money, and the more money that's put at championships, the more options that our championships committee and sports committees have. So, a big part of the championship experience is how much money is Division II putting towards that. And in the past, we've talked, Chris, about the percentage of Division II championship expenses to the total budget compared to what Division III is spending. And I get it. Division II has a bigger budget, and if we're only spending 60% of our budget on championships, it's still more than the 85% that Division III is spending. But when you look at percentages, it tells you what do you value, what do you think is important, and I think the think tank is at least sharing that we may need to be spending more of our resources on championships than we are right now.
Think Tank all had a lot of priorities. I think about 10 or so that met the threshold that, to have solutions. Was there anything that should have had more attention on it that maybe isn't getting enough attention, you think?
Well, yes, absolutely. I'm amazed that football is not on that list. It got referenced as kind of a receiving other votes, not in the top 13 or 14 items that were identified coming out of the think tank. And that just amazes me, Chris, that, with everything that's been happening in the NCAA, when you look at all of the legal issues, all of the political issues, all of the membership issues, all of the issues that are aiding to the disruption in college athletics, they all seem to be centered around football. And for Division II to walk out of a think tank meeting where we're supposed to have thought leaders thinking globally, big picture about the future of Division II, and football is not in the list, a discussion about football governance, football structure, football championship, football organization, football conferences. That I think that's a swing and a miss. If even if you don't sponsor football, your job going to the think tank meeting was not to necessarily think just about your school or your conference, but to think globally, big picture about the division, about things happening in the NCAA. And I just, I'm just amazed. I don't understand how football and a study or analysis of what's going on in football in our division is not an important consideration as we think about the future and the impact that sport has on membership.
You talk about that part of it, the membership and the money that is brought in from football too. I mean, that's the big thing. And, every sport has, pros and cons to them when it comes to finances part of it, but football is the big driver. I mean, like you said, we see that Division I level. Football is basically running everything with now the remaining Power Four-ish conferences that are left. With the think tank not putting it as a top priority, what does that change anything moving forward of how Division II looks at football, or does it have to go back to next year where it's another process of, okay, now do we want to look at football, or what does this do at this point?
Well, I think what it sends a signal to me. I can lay on the couch and complain about things, or I can, try to figure out ways that I can work on an issue that I think is important for Division II. And I'm gonna work within my membership within the MIAA conference. I really don't have a choice because this is what my presidents are telling me to do. We've got to work with other conferences that also believe that football and membership are important issues. We have a mechanism that we can at least have these conversations, and that's the Division II Football Alliance, that's met several times and has had some impact on, proposing legislation and helping to shape some policies and rules within the division. And, maybe that's a group that needs to, think a little bit outside the box on, how should football be organized? What is wrong with our current structure? And, could we organize something that makes football in Division II appealing to even some schools that are outside of the division that may say, hey, that type of top scholarship competition makes a lot more sense to me than having a revenue cap, a salary cap, and trying to pay players and compete at that level. So, I think there's some things that we can certainly talk about. We can look at. We're going to have to in the MIAA. We're going to have to look at some of these issues that weren't included in the think tank's top priorities.
And that kind of leads into our last topic here. You have some news for us as well, and it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about for 3 years, give or take. It's all about watching what Division I's doing and the Power 5 was Power 5, Power 4 are doing now, but I believe you have a little bit of announcement to make on that end as well.
Well, we do. Yeah, and our presidents, and our athletic directors are very interested in not just watching what's happening in Division II and trying to react to that, but to also maybe be a little proactive and to do some things for our conference and others that want to be a part of change that helps position schools and conferences at our level to be a positive alternative to some of the things that we're seeing in Division One. And our presidents have agreed. We went through an RFP process, talked to a number of potential consultants that could help us in this space, and we're really happy that Jeff Schimmel, president of College Sports Solutions, headquartered in Atlanta, will be helping the MIAA for the next several months in monitoring some of these NCAA changes and helping to work with our presidents and ADs to figure out our strategy as a conference moving forward. Jeff has a great pedigree. He's been he's an attorney, I guess, that as one attorney saying something positive about another person and saying they're an attorney. But Jeff is he's a sports attorney. He's been around college athletics at the highest level. He's worked for the Big 12 Conference. He's been an athletic director at Division I institution. He's helped stage and put on the Final Four. He's he's a former Kansas State track and field star and graduate of Washburn Law School. So he knows the MIAA. He knows what our membership is and how successful we are, and we're looking forward to working with him. And if as I mentioned, there's some things that we're just going to need to look at as a conference and other like-minded conferences that continue to try to look at ways that we can offer highly competitive athletics competition and a highly competitive student-athlete experience for our students, but do that in a system that is not diverting critical resources away from the academic mission of the university. And I think we can do both. I think we can, as the MIAA, we can continue to figure out ways to play intercollegiate athletics at a very high level, funding and providing necessary resources, but doing it in a way where we're not putting the institution at financial risk because of the money that needs to be diverted to athletics to pay players and do things like that. So, that's where we're at. But yeah, we're real excited, Chris, about working with Jeff Schimmel and his background, his connections, his network, and really kind of a fresh perspective that he can bring to us in the MIAA as we monitor these things and talk about where do we want to go and how do we get there.
And you talk about the proactive part of this, and I think having the consultant like Jeff come in and do this is part of that plan. And you and I have talked about the hypotheticals before. We don't know really what Division I is going to look like, what they're going to end up doing. But for you, is it best that the NCAA stays intact? Because that could be one of the questions too, is no one knows if the NCAA as a whole entity is going to stay intact if the Power Fives, Power Fours, disband or they leave. And I think that's probably one of the hypotheticals that no one knows where we're heading yet.
Yeah, mission critical that the NCAA stays intact. But I'll qualify that by saying, Chris, that I wish that there were people that were thinking about and working on a different model or structure for the 1,100 schools that are part of the NCAA. We've had 3 divisions for 50 years. We created 3 divisions, and I say we, I mean the membership voted and approved 3 divisions when there were only about 600 schools in the NCAA, about half of where we're at now. And the 3 division structure had a good run for 50 years. But I think it's time that we have, as part of the NCAA reform, a different structure that better aligns institution missions with like schools that would compete for intercollegiate championships. And I think that type of reform needs to take place within Division I, Division II, and Division III. Makes no sense to me that we've got 500 or so schools in Division III that have, as part of its fundamental philosophy, no athletic scholarships to student athletes. But it's also a division that's busy trying to figure out how to give NIL deals and help student athletes find NIL money. You can't have a scholarship, but we'll let this business give you some money for your name, image, and likeness. And so there's a better way to organize. Even single A or single class basketball in the state of Indiana eventually realized that our day is past. We need to have more than one class for basketball within the state for the diversity of our high schools. And that's my point. The NCAA continuing to exist and be a force, absolutely. It's needed. It's critical. It's critical now. It's critical moving forward. But I'm hopeful at some point some wise people in Indianapolis and throughout the membership are able to figure out a different structure of how to fit all of these 1,100 schools that all want to provide a great experience for their student athletes.
I'm pretty sure we can go back to, I think, 2021 when we were doing these conversations and we were saying this exact thing was coming. You were saying it pretty early and the writing was on the wall then, how fast this can move. It doesn't feel like maybe that fast in the moment, but that's only 2.5, 3 years removed. And we've seen the conferences in football and Division I completely shift. I mean, it's almost divisions at this point. This thing will move quickly in terms of, I guess, decade, so to speak. I mean, not day to day, but this thing's moving pretty quickly. And I mean, this is a guess, and I can do that because, no one's holding me to it. But 2030, things aren't going to be the same anywhere at this point, too.
I was going to add, I was going to say the same thing, Chris. I think the level of change that we've seen the last 3 years, I think the next 3 years, that pace will be quickened, and the type of changes will be enhanced that we'll see throughout college sports. So I think the next 18 to 36 months and what all of this looks like, and where does the MIAA fit into that, and what are the things that we're doing to make sure our student athletes are having the type of experience that helps prepare them for life and success after graduation. Those are the things that we need Jeff Schimmel to help us facilitate those conversations and help figure that out.
Happy to be joined once again by Deputy Commissioner Amber Feldman. Amber, nice enough to come back on and talk with us. I wasn't for sure after the first time we had you on if you'd want to come back, but here you are, either by choice or by, you're going to be on with us today. So one of the two things happened, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to be back and, talking about something a little bit more fun than last time maybe, but I'm happy to talk about whatever you'd like.
Oh, yeah. How's your emails going with everybody now blaming you for tournament rankings and seedings? Because that's right around the corner, right?
I haven't gotten anything yet, but we haven't put out our first rankings, so we'll see what happens on October 28th when volleyball comes out. So we'll see.
You're just going to have those forwarded directly to Mike's inbox, right? You're just going to go right to him?
I don't know if I'll do that to him, but we'll work through it together.
All right. We'll get to the actual point of conversation today. Pretty cool opportunity here in a couple of years. 2026 is going to be a busy time in Kansas City and the region with the World Cup, but also Kansas City going to host the 2026 NCAA Fall Festival, Division II Fall Festival, excuse me. What does that mean for the region, for Kansas City, and for the opportunity for the MIAA members to potentially be a part of that?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to have this event here. Fall Festival is one that I've been to, I think, a few times at other locations, but I think it's a great opportunity to not only highlight Kansas City, but also highlight Division II to Kansas City. So we're gonna have a handful of championships here and spread out a little bit across the city and then also into Lawrence. But I think it'll be a great opportunity for us. It's a great way to kind of showcase what we can do as a host and what we can do with Kansas City Sports Commission as our co-host. So looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be all hands on deck, but I think it's a task that we can execute pretty well here.
And I think one of the cool things you brought about too is going to be some different locations, like Division II Field Hockey Championships will be at Pembroke Hill School in Kansas City, Missouri side of things. The men's and women's cross country will be over in Lawrence, Kansas. Division II women's volleyball will be at Municipal, but then men and women's soccer getting a chance to play at the brand new KC Current Stadium there right off the river. Those are some excellent venue locations, opportunities. I'm excited for the KC Current Stadiums. Haven't been to that one yet, but at the same time, these are different venues, different opportunities for these teams, these programs to be a part of, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got our experience, of course, with Municipal. I think volleyball is going to be a great fit in there. Having CPKC for men's women's soccer, I think is going to be a great atmosphere for them. And I've been to one match in there, but I think it'll be a great fit for those championships. And I think Rimrock for cross country, that should be a good course for our over about 500 competitors to be racing at. And then field hockey, we don't have a lot of experience with that. That's not one of our sports that we have, but we'll bring those 4 teams to that school. That's one thing that's a little bit difficult about festival is trying to make sure you've got all the facilities covered. But I think that'll be a great venue for them as well. So yeah, should be great venues, and it's really one of those events where student athletes, if they're off, they should be able to go and watch other events going on throughout the city, and perhaps their schoolmates too. Sometimes that happens with a team from the same schools in different sports, and they go cheer each other on. So really looking forward to it.
Maybe when you guys
Chris.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add to that. I think this festival will bring about 1,000 student athletes to Kansas City. So it's a big championship event. And I was going to have Amber also touch on one of the features of the sports festival that Division II does is an opening and closing ceremony, and it gives the student athletes an opportunity to really be around students outside of their sport that are all there competing for a national championship. And I've been to several of the festivals as well, and I think that's a really cool part of this event is the opening ceremony, the closing ceremony, really something unlike any other NCAA championship that's done. But Amber, I don't know if you want to touch on the festival ceremonies, because those are key elements, I think, as well as what Kansas City will offer.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a festival specific thing, because really when those championships are on their own, that's not something that they get to experience. So they have opening and closing ceremonies. Opening will be like probably Tuesday or Wednesday, and then closing is usually that Saturday night after all the championship finals are done. So it's a way to bring them all together and celebrate them. And they celebrate the team champions. They celebrate the Elite 90 award winners, the academic high GPA getters for each of those championships. So it's a way kind of to highlight those accomplishments in front of all the other athletes as well. So it is a cool thing that Division II does. They also kind of emphasize some other things too. Usually they have student athlete lounges at the hotels, kind of have common area for breakfast, and so they really do get an opportunity to interact a lot with athletes from other sports.
Now, this will be the 6th edition of the Fall Festival by Division II. And just maybe I glossed over this earlier, but for people who don't know, what is the purpose of the Fall Festival for the national championships, or what is the idea behind the Fall Festival? And this could be for Amber, you, or Mike, or both of you. And I'll step out of the way.
I'll let Mike take this one since he kind of kicked it off.
There we go.
Well, yeah, the festival, Chris, is something that's been around Division II for about 20 years. And it was when I was working at the national office, the president of the NCAA at the time, Sid Dempsey, asked all 3 divisions to look at the possibility for championships in the same season, bringing them together and allowing those events to maybe have greater attention combined than they would separate and on their own. There are some in Division II that argue that maybe the festival has run its course in Division II, that some of these events that we've helped bring greater attention to can now stand on their own just fine. And have your own cross country championship or your own soccer championship, and that may be the case, but it really is a chance to shine a light on a group of student athletes and give them experience that they couldn't have maybe if the championship was by itself. And I think like I said, there are different opinions on whether or not the festival is still a good thing to do, but I will tell you that based on some of the things that Kansas City has done recently and that Kansas City will be doing, as you mentioned, Chris, that just a few months before the festival starts, hosting the World Cup, I think Kansas City is going to throw a heck of a party and provide a great experience. Student athletes flying into a brand new airport, student athletes being housed in some of the city's best hotels. We've talked about the facilities they'll be competing in. Kansas City knows how to put out the red carpet. I imagine that some of our student athletes might get to eat some of the best barbecue in the world. There may be some jazz music involved somewhere, but I think that's the cool thing about this concept is it allows a city to really showcase for a lot of student athletes that may be visiting that city for the first time, and really gives our sports commission and Visit KC an opportunity to really show all of college sports what Kansas City has to offer.
Amber, I have 2 questions for you before we get out of here. First one is, you talk about not having a lot of experience with field hockey. Is it possible for you guys to do like an introductory video with the MIAA office playing field hockey, and then that can be kind of the introduction for everybody to kind of see how that works?
I mean, that doesn't sound like a terrible idea, but I don't know. I don't know how that's going to showcase our. I guess most of us in this office are pretty athletic, so we'll do our best. So
now, hold on a second.
She said most.
Hold on a second. You say things like that, people in the office are going to start saying, "Wait, is it me?"
Some of us have bad knees and knee replacements that might not bode so well.
They're fixed. They're robotic or whatever. Now.
I'll tell you, Chris, a video of us playing field hockey would probably be I think it'd be a lot better than people having to watch my golf swing last week that we had at a community fundraising event at Topgolf. It was not. It was a little
Not
little
that bad.
Charles
It's
Barkley
not
like.
There's no hit.
Yeah, I'll bring that same swing to a field hockey event. So, but you may be onto something, Chris. Good idea.
I won't take part. I'll just, if you need me to shoot the video, I will. That's as far as I'll go. And then the last one, what was it? Convening? Is that the new word that you're trying to get going? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the word convening being used a lot now for MIAA stuff, like MIAA Media Convening Day or MIAA Basketball Convening Tournament. Because Mike seems to want to get that word going more.
It just makes it feel a little fancier, Chris. But yeah, Amber will probably
The facial
talk to
expression's
me.
not looking good.
Yeah. She may be vetoing that idea.
It's like my favorite word is strategery, but no one actually lets me use that one anywhere. Besides, in calm settings, because I try to throw it into places and people don't let me do that. They usually cut my mic off pretty quickly. But Amber, thank you for the time. It's going to be exciting few months in Kansas City. There, you look at it like Mike, you said it too. World Cup's there. Division I women's college cup will be in Kansas City as well. Division I women's volleyball in 2027. Division I men's basketball Midwest Regional. So the MIAA and Division II right in the heart of everything going on in Kansas City there in the next few years. So Amber, appreciate the time talking about the 2026 Fall Festival. And you guys will probably see us here in a few weeks with basketball season getting underway. And who knows, maybe Amber will be happy to join us for a third time or be told to join us for a third time. We'll see. We'll see how that one goes.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Good to see you.
But good to see you guys.